What's going on, guys? It's Groove, back again with another one from the 12 Rules of Life from Jordan Peterson. And in today's video, we're going to be going over Rule 9. Assume the person you are talking to may know something that you don't. So he starts out by saying that genuine conversation is exploration. It's articulation, it's strategization, and that listening is paying full attention. And when I read that, it just makes me think about how many people are not paying attention today. You know, people can have a full-on conversation and somebody will be on their phone, head down, not really listening, or maybe they're not even on their phone, but maybe they're slouched over in a chair. And the person knows this. They might not say this, but they can understand body language. They know you're not paying attention. So you should get off your phone. I know when I'm always having a conversation with somebody, I always put my phone down, like face down on the table. That way they know I'm paying attention. I will look at them in their eyes. I will sit up if I'm slouched over. This will open people up to you. This will allow them to fully tell you what they think. And, it opens the conversation up to different avenues. They feel like they can talk to you more. So he says the whole point of this is when you're genuinely listening to somebody, they will tell you about their problems. They will tell you how they plan to fix their problems. And you maybe sit there saying like, well, okay, what does this have to do with me? If you listen closely enough, they will actually tell you how you can even fix some of the problems in your own life. So Mr. Peterson then goes on to say that, when we're talking, this is how we actually think. We can't just think in our minds. We have to talk it out. This is why people like to converse with other people. This is how you simulate the world around you. And so you can make plans to, travel and go through life. We need to talk our thoughts out. He says this is the whole point of talking. It's so we can think our way through life. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but he says we need to think our way through life by talking to other people. And so these people can tell us if we're on the right path or not. And he gives an example of a kid. He says, imagine a little young boy who wants to climb up on the roof. But then his sister says, hey, what if you fall off the roof? What if dad finds out that you're on the roof and you get in trouble? So then this makes the young little boy rethink his thoughts. So again, that's an example of that. The kid has an idea or a plan to go through life or, to go through a situation. And because he talked it out with his sister, now he gets to rethink that plan. Okay, maybe that wasn't a good idea. And he says this is how we get through life. And then he goes on to say that most people believe they can think, but they really can't. He says real thinking is hard for people because it requires you to be two people at the same time. Now, he does say that there are some people out there that can do that. I believe I may be one of those people, but he says that the average person cannot do this because it requires you, again, to have the ability to be two people at once and to, bounce conversations between those two people and actually disagree with yourself. And it is kind of weird. Again, I do believe I have this ability because I'm always doing this. And I remember one time I was at work and I was actually working overnight. And I was in the bathroom having a full-blown conversation with myself. And somebody walked in and they looked around and they were like, who, is there somebody else in here? And I just started cracking up. I just had to be real. I was like, I was just talking to myself. And I walked out and I was laughing. But it is really weird, like having a conversation with yourself, bouncing back between thoughts. Hey, I think we should do that. Maybe we shouldn't do that. That's not a really good idea, because if we do go down this path, X, Y, and Z may happen. Yeah, I guess you're kind of right. It's weird, but I do believe I have this ability. But he says most people can't do this because they just have a one-track mind and they don't have anybody to kind of disagree with them, and they can't do this on their own. So he dives deeper into this, this understanding of thinking, and he says, imagine two avatars and they're having a conversation with each other, expressing their own worldviews onto each other. And so again, this is how he says true thinking is hard for one person to do because you will have to have two worldly views talking and going back and forth with each other to bounce ideas off of, what idea is the best one to take out into the real world. He says that true thinking is really complex and demanding. He says you have to be able to tolerate conflict, and negotiate with yourself. You have to learn to give and take to modify your thoughts. And on top of that, you have to do this all within your own head, which is why he believes that most people can't do this. And so we need conversation. And it is kind of crazy how many people today are in therapy and they just need somebody else to talk to because it's really hard for the average person to have two conflicting thoughts in their head so they can make the best decisions about how they should do life. So they need to just talk to somebody. They need to get their thoughts off. Hey, what do you think about this? I was thinking this, can you just give me some feedback? Is this a good idea? Again, because most people cannot think correctly. On the other side of this, he talks about being a good listener and, how that requires your full attention. But at the same time, you barely even have to say anything. Now, when I was reading this, I was just imagining him in his office, or, when he used to practice psychology or being a psychiatrist. And then I just started to think about different movies that you've seen where the psychiatrist doesn't really say anything. The person will be venting on the couch, and then the psychiatrist will just be like, yes. And they'll just be writing on the paper like, yep, tell me more about that. So how did that make you feel? It's like, that's kind of what being a good listener is. You really don't even need to try to fix anybody's problems. Just be a good listener. And normally the person will, just bouncing ideas off of you, they'll fix it themselves. They'll be able to figure out a way how to get through life. Again, just by talking, but you really don't even need to talk back to them. You can just tell them, hey, dive deeper into that. How did that make you feel? Like, what were you feeling in that situation? And usually that just ends up with the person answering their own questions. Another great piece of advice that he says, when you're listening to somebody, summarize what they just said back to them. Because usually either you will miss something or they will be like, well, that's not exactly what I meant. So he says to, whenever somebody's talking to you, summarize what you just said back to them. Like, okay, so you're talking about this, and this, and that situation happened. Am I getting that correct? And usually they'll be like, wait a minute, did I really just say that? And so again, it just makes the entire conversation go better because now the both of you understand the situation. And that's pretty much it for this chapter. I really like this rule, understanding the whole point of conversation, the whole point of talking. It's how we think. It's how we, change our worldviews. It's how we make decisions in the world. And it kind of made me think about why so many people are making poor decisions today. It's because we're not socializing anymore. Everybody's just online or on their phone, but nobody's really having genuine conversation. And when they do, they're not really paying attention. And so hopefully you guys got a little bit of information from this video, and go ahead and hit a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.